Good day, Internet. This is DTNS Live for Tuesday, March 11th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
Studio 7 in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
At the edge of the 314, I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Daily Tech News Show Live is made possible by you right there. Can you believe it's March 11th already? Thanks to all of you, including Pele Glendale, Tim Deputy, Brandon Brooks, and two new patrons today. Everybody welcome Gristlefoot and Frozen Cusser.
That is fun. I mean, we love new
Frozen
patrons, but especially when they have cool names.
Yeah, absolutely.
Grizzlefoot, Frozen Cusser. All right. Welcome to DTNS Live. This is the show where we discuss the tech news together to help us all understand it a little bit more as we are together. Patrick Norton, how are you doing in the in the loo?
I thought I was here for some sort of. Sorry, I was about to make a joke about something terrible. I'm great. I was trying to be humorous, completely failed. And I love sharing moments of failure.
I don't know if I'm happy or sad that you didn't finish.
I will say
Moments of
that
failure,
gonna make a Loki
those are important to
joke,
share. Yeah.
I will say
I'm
for a
your
hot
chaos
second,
and pain.
when you said in the loo, I immediately thought of the British slang for the restroom.
Yeah.
That would be a different view behind me.
As Nelly
Although
would
this
say,
be-
Patrick is from the loo and he's proud.
Yeah. I remember one time Sarah asking me, do people in St. Louis call it the loo? And I'm like, I don't think they do, but also hadn't lived there in a long time. So
I'll ask around.
I asked
find
you
out.
that? That must have
was
been
like
quite a long time ago.
5 or 6 years ago, yeah.
Oh, I feel like it's more like 15,
When you leave the loo,
but okay.
Possibly more. 5 or 6 years sometimes means 15 years. It's a good point.
Well, Patrick, it's so good to have you back on the show. I think this is the first time you've been on in 2025.
Ever. We're just meeting you for the first
What
time.
year is it?
There was a moment of panic when I was trying to find the spreadsheet.
Because the new
sheets
year.
with all this on there. This is like,
Year, new
where is
spreadsheet.
it? Have they not shared it with me? Am I not in? And then it finally popped up.
Well,
Yes, my first
we
show.
do have a lot of tech news to get through. It's going to be fun. We're all here together.
Guaranteed.
So let's start with the quick hits.
And what's more fun than starting with news about the President of the United States nominating Sean Plankey to lead the country's Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, aka CISA. Plankey supported U.S. forces in Afghanistan in 2013 with cybersecurity, worked at U.S. Cyber Command, also was in the Coast Guard and the Navy after that. Plankey also worked on cyber policy for the U.S. National Security Council from 2018 to 2019 and for the U.S. Department of Energy from 2019 to 2020.
The Tao Center for Digital Journalism studied 8 AI chatbots and found them to be often incorrect based on their ability to find and accurately cite articles based on provided quotes. Results showed the chatbots were correct less than 40% of the time, that's collectively, with Perplexity performing the best at 60% accuracy and Grok 3 worst at 6%. The study also found that the chatbots also gave speculative or incorrect answers, premium versions were more confidently wrong, and some ignored web crawling restrictions.
Waymo is expanding its 24/7 Robotaxi service to 27 square miles of Silicon Valley towns in California. That's in addition to the 55 square miles it already covers in the Bay Area. Just launched in Austin. Miami is next, and Waymo plans to test in up to 10 new U.S. cities this year, including Las Vegas and San Diego.
Counterpoint's Q4 2024 global smartwatch shipments tracker shows a decline for the first time in 2024, with shipments falling 7% year over year, with India in particular showing slow replacement cycles, lack of innovation, and unsatisfactory user experiences. Apple's still in first place in the smartwatch race. Samsung achieved 3% year-over-year growth with its Galaxy Watch models, and Xiaomi entered the top 5 for the first time, with the fastest growth fueled by strong performance of its Watch S1 and Redmi Watch series.
OpenAI launched the Responses API for developers to create agents that can search the web, sift through files, perform tasks on a computer, and use GPT-4o and GPT-4o mini models. It includes a web search tool, a document search tool, and a computer use feature based on OpenAI's operator model. OpenAI's new Agents SDK also is out alongside this. That one helps developers coordinate multiple agents to handle complex tasks.
Sony is testing AI-powered PlayStation characters, starting with a prototype of Aloy from Horizon Forbidden West. An internal demo shows Aloy responding to a player voice prompt using OpenAI's Whisper, GPT-4, Llama 3, and Sony's Emotional Voice Synthesis, or EVS, for speech generation. The demo runs on a PC, but has been tested on a PS5 with minimal performance impact. All right, I know we talk about being on Facebook or not being on Facebook and how Facebook is sort of long in the tooth, et cetera, et cetera. So let's talk about Facebook. According to a 2024 Pew Research study, Facebook Marketplace is helping keep younger users engaged on the platform. The study shows only 32% of U.S. teens currently use Facebook in the way that we used to use Facebook, down from 71% in 2014. So huge drop, right? But younger users seem to be active for Marketplace, which has 1.1 billion users across 70 countries. Since 2016, Marketplace has offered free listings and local pickups. You trying to get rid of a couch, trying to get a couch, that type of thing, which tends to attract younger buyers, obviously. A recent eBay partnership also lets select eBay listings also appear on Facebook Marketplace. I wanted to ask the crew if any of you have used Facebook Marketplace recently, because I have. Half of the furniture in my house right now, I got on Facebook Marketplace last summer. Yeah. It's awesome.
No,
it is
great.
Definitely the new Craigslist for me.
It's so much better. I had an experience because I had to unload a bunch of audio equipment, and Craigslist was, I don't want to say it's seedy, but like I got and the Craigslist down here in LA is huge. I got very few, if any, responses. Marketplace, I got at least 50 to 60% more, and they were responsive. So when I was emailing back and forth with those individuals, I was actually getting like, yeah, I'll meet you over here. I'll drop, if you can meet halfway, I'll meet you there. Everything on on Craigslist ended up being either I was ghosted or that person was like scamming me in some way, and it was like, eh.
Is it okay if I pay in yuan? Like,
and so, I mean, all of us are old enough to remember when Craigslist was sort of like the only way that you get like a cool apartment, right? I mean, like, sure, maybe if you know somebody otherwise, but like that was the way that you buy and sell. I mean, you could even buy a car on Craigslist. You still can do that.
Craigslist killed the newspaper industry by driving classifieds out of business. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, that was rife with scams, sure. But definitely now more than ever. I wonder why Facebook Marketplace seems to be the place where people are like, well, that's where you sell your couch. I don't know, Patrick, are you using it?
So I 3 of the 4 cars we owned came off Craigslist. The RV we bought when we RV'd full time, I found on Craigslist, I think. That camera, that light, and those speakers came off Craigslist. I met my wife on Craigslist. So I'm somebody who has a deep intense relationship with Craigslist. What was trippy moving to St. Louis is that there is literally no traffic on Craigslist by comparison to Northern California or Southern California, or for that matter, Portland, where I found the car, the Volvo, that's parked out front came from Portland, and which I found on Craigslist. And it was fascinating to be in a place, are there Craigslist listings? Yes. But they're like an order of magnitude plus, smaller in scale. Like Craigslist barely exists out here. So I was just assuming that was sort of a Midwestern versus West Coast thing, but it's fascinating to me to hear both you and Roger talk about how big Facebook Facebook Marketplace has gotten in LA.
Well,
It's because your face is on Facebook, so they can. There's an individual.
Right there
it's
in the
not anonymous.
There
But
are
it's also-
scams
so-
on Facebook.
I mean,
Yes.
of course, everywhere, be vigilant, everyone. But what I thought, I had heard about Facebook Marketplace, I don't know, from, a variety of people being like, oh, you want a new couch? I keep using couch as an example because I'm in the
No,
market for one
Which
right
is
now.
ironic because
That couch came off.
Right. But, I was like, Facebook Marketplace, I mean, that can't be great. I mean, who's on Facebook? A lot of people use Facebook Marketplace. And to give credence to Pew Research, it's true. A lot of younger people are like, oh yeah, that's where you just you're bartering for stuff. You buy and sell. I'm a college student. I need some
I've seen lots of those.
some whatever. Yeah, like all
I'm
that
done
stuff.
with college. I want to sell my furniture. It's like, yeah.
Or that. And Nextdoor is obviously another option for a lot of
Nextdoor-
folks.
Nextdoor is so. It's really depends on the neighborhood your next door is in.
It does. It
Like
does.
mine is pretty sleepy. Other than people sniping about their neighbors and the coyotes and maybe the occasional garbage. Someone
Mine
didn't
mine
pick it
is about well, I don't even want to talk about my next door, but it's lively. Let's say that. But yes, Facebook Marketplace has definitely emerged as sort of like, hey, if you want like not crappy stuff, but you're on the second market, that's what you're doing. It's a lively place. Now, I live in Los Angeles, so I can't speak for a lot of other regions, but I will say, I mean, and I'm not kidding. Last summer, I was like, I need a new dining table. I need like some just
Chairs.
yeah,
you coulda
just
hit me up.
something in the living room where there's like something besides the
Roger,
couch.
this
If
is not the
anyone ever
time
comes
for you
over
to
to my
try to
house.
get rid of your 85 chairs that are stored in the Central Valley. We're talking about
It's
Facebook
down to
Marketplace.
I don't know,
56.
Roger. It might be Facebook Marketplace. You have to get rid of those
It's funny
chairs.
because I tried it as well. We'll see.
But yeah, I feel like it's interesting that young people seem to be using this as like, oh, this is the place for cool stuff.
I love
but
that
we
the
don't want to use
CNBC
Facebook otherwise.
I love the CNBC quote from this guy, a student at Buffalo University. I only use Facebook for Marketplace. I go in knowing what I want, not just casually browsing. Like, it sounds like me going into a department store. Like, I know I want to get this shirt. I'm not going to talk to the sales clerk. I just
I
want
love
to get
it.
this shirt and get
I
out.
mean, I mean, it's like shopping on any online site. You really need to know what you want and enough about the product, right? I was looking at used Toyotas on Facebook Marketplace. It's like, this is a great deal, except at the end where he says it's a salvage title. It's like, yeah, I mean a little more look-see in what they're selling. But I mean, I haven't really had a bad experience on Marketplace.
Well, I've seen. I mean, I've had people flake. I've had people, posting stuff where they were either didn't know what they actually had or were outright lying, which could be either one. But I'm still kind of fascinated by young people coming on board. It's like, do they trust Facebook more than Craigslist because so much of their existence is defined by searching on YouTube and other social media, and Facebook is that trusted place, where their parents hang out. As compared to Craigslist, which was this, this standalone amorphous site.
I think Craigslist has just been around so much. It's kind of like looking through the want ads in the old, in the newspaper where like, yeah, everyone posts there. And
well, it's old internet. It doesn't
Yes.
look nice. It looks usable. And
I
they
will say
associate
Facebook
that
Marketplace.
with it not being credible. Whereas they associate Facebook with being credible, also associate with Facebook with being credible because it's where their parents are, right? It just has the veneer of somewhere that's, probably a little safer to meet
Patina
someone
of
than
trust.
Craigslist, which is just wide open. Maybe I can get a good deal, but I have to beware of scams. I'm not saying that's the reality, although it might be. That is definitely the perception.
I wish they made search function vastly better on Facebook Marketplace. Its search is atrocious compared to Craigslist. That's a little frustrating.
And Fred points out that my Facebook success unloading things seems to happen more on local community groups than Marketplace itself. So that's an interesting aspect of this. I'm not sure how many people conflate those when they're talking to Pew Research, where they're like, yeah, I sell and buy things on Facebook, but maybe not on Marketplace.
Well, and I'm sure there are people out there being like, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, what about eBay? Also, a way that people buy and sell things.
I have also used eBay. I've had great luck during the pandemic unloading a bunch of old Transformer toys for a really inflated prices.
Totally online stuff, though. You don't. I know eBay has a function for meeting up, but almost nobody uses it.
Yeah, it's
a different kind of thing.
It's a different experience. It's like going into it's just an entirely different experience. But yeah, I like Facebook Marketplace.
Well,
more so than Facebook.
Same. I mean, that's where I got my couch. If anyone is in a continuing quest to make yourself, your son, your daughter, your parent feel better on TikTok, TikTok has some new features that at least are designed to help you with that. Right, Tom?
TikTok announced a wind down feature, not wind down feature for teens younger than 16 years old. After 10 p.m., the app will interrupt their feed with calming music and a reminder that, you should probably log off. If you ignore it, they give you a harder to ignore reminder. Like, no, seriously, we mean it. We are your parents. We're TikTok. Go to bed. TikTok is also working with Telefonica on age verification for 13-year-olds. 13-year-olds are not supposed to use TikTok at all. And so they're working with Telefonica to say, can we tell from phone data that you have as a carrier whether someone is 13 years old or not, using some machine learning for that from the app. So I want to talk about the machine learning thing because Google is doing that too, and a few other folks have been trying that. But let's start with the calming music, Patrick. That will keep all of your children off TikTok, I assume.
Oddly enough, neither of my children actually spend a lot of time on TikTok.
That's fair.
The older one spends a lot of time on Reddit. That seems to be his meme and video source of choice. But I am really, really fortunate that neither of my children have much interest in any social media platforms at all. I'm very thankful for that every day, although my youngest does have a really nasty video gaming social media habit.
So no
that
social
is the laugh
media,
of a father,
but big social media habit.
It's it's
well,
weird.
I should say
Kids.
I was Minecraft isn't really social media, but there's moments where it feels very social.
Where it's very social.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it can
it
be
is.
social.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, it's weird because my kids don't really use TikTok. They'll use YouTube Shorts.
All right, so neither one of you are worth.
But this is very interesting because I am always haranguing. I am parenting when I nag them to get off their tablets right before their bed. It's like, get off, brush your teeth. It's like, yeah, and having something that would forcibly just shut off would be much more effective than I think.
You have a router, right?
Well, it doesn't forcibly shut you off.
No, that's what I'm saying.
TikTok,
I
but
don't
sort of
know
like,
how
hey,
effective this would be.
You've been here for a while.
I mean, they're just gonna skip past. First of all, the really savvy ones won't even acknowledge that they're 16 years old, and so they won't even see this. But others will just skip past it. I like the suggestion in the chat room that you should just play their parents' music. Larry in Atlanta said that. The algorithm
like my parents' music.
The algorithm could get them off really fast. Just start serving them boring stuff, and they will put down TikTok. TikTok would know how to do that.
Well, I mean, even though I feel like this is, I get that it's coming from a good place, I guess. If you're
it's
a kid
coming from a
who's-
place that wants to convince everyone that they're trying to help. That's
Yes.
Right.
That
right.
they
We're
are
the
this
good
demonic
social
entity.
media platform.
Right, yeah,
Or
like,
Instagram
we
that is
don't want you to be
Public
on here
relations,
too long.
I believe the
mean,
term is.
Instagram does the same thing. But it reminds me of when my Apple Watch tells me to stand at, 10 to the hour every hour, and I'm like, get away from me. or or when my smart lights, which I have programmed myself to do exactly this, at 11 p.m. say it's time to go to bed. We're going to go ahead and turn off over the next 15 minutes. And I'm like, I'm still watching something. You're not the boss of me.
Yeah.
I can only imagine being a teen and being like, come on, are you kidding?
I don't know how effective this will be. I'm strongly skeptical of its efficacy, but I do know that there are times where you just want your kids to get off the technology and get ready for bed or do
for that,
something.
there's parental controls, which TikTok also has.
No, there's parents.
Or
right?
just
and
telling
there's
children
parental
that
controls
they
on
have to-
Android and iOS.
Or
and-
you
and
threaten
all
to
that.
take their tablets and mail it off to somewhere else. And
No, I mean, I find it very effective where you look at the children and say, look,
Mail it off.
shut it down in the next 10 minutes or you have no
it
access
doesn't
to
work
the
with
next
this
month.
face, Patrick. All right, they sort of giggle at me and they kick their foot out in my face, and then it's fine. You get 5 more minutes of Roblox or whatever you're doing in Roblox, and then get ready for bed. It's a lot of nagging. It's something I grew up with. A lot of
Roblox is
nagging.
a terrible, terrible thing that must
Well,
be stopped.
so I like that we're circling around the ideas like we don't need TikTok to do this for us. It's the parents that need to do it. That's what's really going to be effective because your child is 16 years or younger, and so I want to focus on that. Platforms trying to use machine learning to decide if someone is too young to be using the platform because people are going to lie. When I was 12, I would have lied to try to use one of these platforms. I guarantee you. So I get that kids are going to do that. I think it is lazy to criticize it of it's just going to be false positive. How are they going to know? Because those are edge cases. They'll test it. It won't shut down massive numbers of adults. But isn't there just another way to game the system, even if they get really good at this?
There's always a way to
machine learning is really good, but how good can it be?
The machine learning on what attributes? Is it just looking at the face, or is it also?
Yeah, it's telemetry. No, nobody's talking about facial recognition. We're talking about telemetry. And that kind of stuff can be way more informative than we give it credit for, right? There's ways to tell who you are just based on a few things in your browser. So I can't imagine that Telefonica wouldn't be able to be like, oh yeah, I think we can tell this person goes to school and back every day. They might be 13 years old, and maybe machine learning can pick up on even more patterns like that.
Yeah,
patterns that we wouldn't be able to see as humans.
That's the thing where it gets more interesting because AI itself and looking at what AI can't actually summarize a Wikipedia entry in a couple of base sources online and synthesize a functional answer. What do we see? It was anywhere from 6% to 40% of the time it was accurate. I run into it constantly where stupid things
that's an LLM, not a machine learning. So that's important
I understand
to
that.
distinguish.
Okay. You are absolutely correct. LLM is not AI, despite the fact that it is constantly referred to as AI, despite the fact that it can confidently pass the bar, even in New York and California. It can't add or count correctly because it's not intelligence, it's an LLM. But I feel between some of the failures there and in other things, novices such as myself and the rest of the general public lump under AI. We run into a lot of cases where it does not seem to deliver what it's supposed to deliver. Whether that is tracking the person's face to the voice in a conversation, on an AV platform, or it is a functional answer to whether or not someone is a child or an adult. I because of, and perhaps this is a failure in calling everything AI that makes me, as AI actually gets more intelligent and less word guessing machine, I should stop thinking of the failures of the word guessing machine as to be automatically extended forward to the failures of the actual genuine intelligence or machine intelligence.
Well, that's why I don't think AI is a useful term. I try to avoid it unless I don't know what, unless a story just doesn't tell me what they're talking about, because AI can mean a million different things. And machine learning is pretty solid. Machine learning is good at finding patterns and be able to distinguish them and is used pretty often in science. I'm going to give LLMs even more credit than you're giving them. They can be very helpful. They are not 100% reliable though, and I'll agree with you there. But the point of this is we're talking about machine learning to detect like this person might be younger than 13, not an LLM. We're not asking a large language model to decide this. And I definitely do not think it would be good at that.
I think part of my prejudice is based on a lot of the things that are labeled as AI by some of the largest companies that manufacture technology have caused me to just sort of give up on the idea. If it's giving me the wrong torque value, and that could cause my car to explode into several separate pieces that I do not want separated while I am traveling on the highway at 70 miles an hour, I'm not sure I want to trust it with making intelligent decisions about my children. But as you point out, that's a LLM, which is a guessing platform, and not necessarily machine intelligence.
And what we try to do on this show is help people understand that you are not wrong to have that impression. Patrick Norton himself has that impression, right? Like that's totally fair, but it's good to remember like, oh, wait a minute. That's a different thing than that. Yeah. And so even though companies and journalists are all calling everything AI, it's good to remember like, oh, when they say AI, what do they mean? That's like saying a car when you mean a truck versus a sedan versus a sports car. Like
they all have four wheels and a shiny side.
Yeah.
That's supposed to touch the ground.
They get you somewhere.
They all get you somewhere, but they get you somewhere in different ways. Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I would like you to tell me what you think of all of this in our Discord. So please become a patron, patreon.com/DTNS. Join our Discord. You can hook it up right there in Patreon and join the conversation. We've got a good one going on there. That's patreon.com/DTNS.
Now, if you're some sort of crazy person who values their privacy and just says, hey, I don't want people looking into my activity, Patrick, what do you tell these crazy people?
Tell you to go to AI. So I just had to mock myself there. Well, it's funny, right? Because to some degree, most of us have given up a staggering amount of information in order to do things online that are convenient. For example, several, music and or other, let's say Amazon knows a lot about how I travel because my, audiobook application is synced into my primary navigational tool, right? Do I want them to have that information? Probably not. Is it incredibly inconvenient to not be able to reach up and hit pause in the middle of Waze so I can actually, not have volume 30, chapter 373 of Shogun blaring in my ear while I'm trying to navigate St. Louis? Yes. But that's like, I don't think we realize how much, we active things are easy to be aware of, but a lot of things where people are like, hey, do I need to make an active choice? Who is listening? Can this be tapped along the way? And some of this may be a little tinfoil hat for people. And I will also say that when you start hanging around with a lot of people who do security for a living, what used to be tinfoil hat suddenly seems like not enough. So this is a little self-deprecation here. But for example, if you are wanting to rag about someone in your office, you should not do it on Office email or on Teams or on any other Office-owned platform because none of that is private. They have legal and entitled access to all of that information. You should be running something like Signal. If there's something out there that's more secure, I don't know what it is, but essentially it's secure communications, text and voice for people that don't want the telcos or their company or anything else to be able to listen in and read what's being communicated there. Of course, VPNs come up a lot, as we were discussing before the show. VPNs are often promoted. It's going to prevent you from being hacked. Well, a lot of the hacking that VPNs used to prevent, in theory, doesn't really, exist anymore for all.
Yeah, we've done a good job of getting websites to use HTTPS, which is what VPNs were often used to
as a substitute
help.
For
or
but I also, for whatever reasons, don't feel like sharing my online life with my ISP.
Right.
I'm currently using Mulvad. A lot of others are solid out there. It's really all about, can you trust the person that claims they are trustworthy enough to hide your information from your ISP and other people? This is messy because there's a lot of companies out there that may not be as trustworthy as they want you to think they are. One of the things of why people like Mulvad is they do third-party audits. They're fairly transparent. But again, any VPN you choose is about trust, and it's about trust, and it's also about trust. So look for one that is open and letting third parties in. It is really blunt about privacy being a primary thing that they do. If you ever wonder if your browser is being tracked, the Electronic Frontier Foundation's Cover Your Tracks page is kind of interesting to look at. Again, as Tom mentioned, like we've done a good job about making things more private and less exposed. But one, it'll analyze your browser, and then it has links where you can learn how, say, marketers can track you and put together staggering amounts of information around you without technically knowing your name. You can also take a look at Privacy Badgers, which is the EFF's browser extension. It blocks advertiser and other third-party trackers from watching what you do and look online. I also use uBlock Origin Lite for ad blocking because I just, at some point many years ago, I realized the difference between using an ad blocker and not using an ad blocker was a web page loading in 10 seconds versus 3 or 4 years. And I'm probably single-handedly responsible for destroying a lot of the websites that used to have ad revenue from ads online. But I don't want to think about that right now because it makes me super sad. You just also take a look at your browser. Chrome, for the most part, is fairly secure, but you want to look at Firefox or Brave if you want a less information-hungry ad-pushing browser manufacturer, or if you want to get really out on the edge of security and privacy. Take a look at LibreWolf. LibreWolf.net as a browser.
And that's a Firefox spin-off, if I understand correctly, right?
So
like
it's a
trying to be even more
browser
secure. Yeah.
still.
Yeah, it's Firefox for people who think Firefox is just as bad as Chrome, which I don't think
LibreWolf.
it is.
Got it.
Libre. Yeah, so it's got a open source vibe to it if you're into that kind of thing. But
I was very excited to learn about LibreWolf today.
I had
It is
no
now
idea you
installed.
didn't know about Libre.
No, I know. I can't believe I missed it.
A custom-based version of Firefox focused on
Yeah,
privacy,
wolves
security,
that
and
read
freedom.
books. I
And
mean,
on the side,
what's not to like?
and Mexican
Libra
restaurants.
like
Professor
freedom,
Lupin.
not Libra. Like book. That's a good point, though. It's Libre, folks.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like every time we talk about this, obviously our audience is very interested in
Right.
personal privacy and knowing what our options are. But for folks who kind of go like, well, but if you're not doing anything wrong, what does it matter? I mean, I'm not going to
Doesn't
go
matter
to
at all.
jail, right?
Yeah.
Like, what
Something that's
what?
not wrong now, but you never know.
Well. So I mean,
don't know,
that's kind of
you
my
know.
point. Is like I know we all chuckle about this, but a lot of people, some of my less tech inclined, friends and family will ask me about this periodically, and I'm like,
Sure.
well, it's something that
but
you should be able to harness for yourself.
And it's not just the authorities or the government. Sometimes it could be as simple as like some sensitive jobs within corporations. They do a really thorough background check on you because they want to make sure they're not hiring a liability.
Sure. That's very small possibility for a very small number of people.
But that kind of goes
could be an
to,
issue.
that would go to the same question of someone being like, but I'm not a convict.
Well,
I
yeah,
don't, I didn't
I
do
look at-
anything wrong. Why would I care?
I look at it this way. You should be in charge of your information. So it's good to know how to control it. Maybe I do think that a lot of people overreact to privacy. That there is a little bit of a I don't want anyone knowing anything about me, and it's wrong if they do. I don't think it's wrong as long as you have made the choice, right? I think it's fine to say, you know what, it is okay for an advertiser to know who I am and that I live in California, that I live in Los Angeles, and direct advertising to me because that means I'm going to get more relevant advertising instead of stupid advertising that I don't care about. So yes, you can have that. I don't necessarily want advertisers to know my address because then they might misuse that and mail me stuff, and that's annoying. I definitely don't want them knowing everything about me, like my period cycle or things like that, because that's information that could be used against me and could fall in the wrong hands, and I don't want that aggregated. So there's levels here, and I think it's important to understand the tools based on your own concerns, right? It's one thing to say, I don't have anything to hide until you think about it. Like, well, don't you? Do you walk around naked? No. So you have something to hide. So, let's move up to a little more rational level from that. What are you okay with third-party advertisers knowing about you, which is mostly what we're talking about here? What are you okay with your ISP knowing about you? And then how do you control that?
It's like, if you want to get really, sort of excited enthusiastic about privacy or lack thereof. For me, one of the things that drives me nuts is license plate scanners, because the idea that companies are giving away license plate scanners to police agencies so they can aggregate the data, and then they end up with a tool that allows them to track your movements. Is this something I need to be paranoid about?
Yeah.
Probably not. Does it creep me out knowing that somebody can basically set up an account?
That's the thing, right? There's the creep out factor versus the actual concern factor, and those often do overlap, but not all the time.
Yeah, and I'll say that using your credit card is a much better way to track your behavior over a quarter, 3 or 4 months.
The movies have taught me anything. First thing you do, turn off your cell phone and don't use your credit card. They will find you.
I keep cash on hand for a reason. I don't use my credit card within 5 miles.
Because you might need to go on the lam at any minute.
You don't use your credit card within 5 miles of your house, Roger?
I wasn't. Who said I was joking?
I don't use my credit 5 miles within 5 mile radius of my house.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I mean,
that's a great thing about
that. I have never
even
thought
though
about
the bank
doing
has
that.
your credit card, it has your address to send you your bill, or do you use a PO box for your bill?
I used to use
the bank
a PO
is worried
box.
about Tom.
Roger says,
The advertisers.
when I finally just go out
I
west,
used to hand over the
they'll
credit
never
card
know.
information for them to figure out his address.
So one of
from
the
the credit
great
card
things
usage,
about carrying 4 mortgages at one time is for the longest time they would send all the mail to another address that wasn't.
That's good.
See, that's why you get yourself deeply indebted, Tom, because you play that shell game so no one can find out where you really live.
People love being in debt.
Apparently they do.
And Roger, even more so.
What people also like is to work hard and play harder. So could the secret to a more refreshing midday break, if you're doing the 9 to 5 kind of thing, be a game of something like Wordle? Roger, tell us more.
Yeah, so in a post on the conversation, these 2 psychology lecturers in the University of Darwin argued that a work break with a game like Wordle can provide a short, engaging mental a break that may help improve cognitive functions and overall productivity. In other words, it allows you to take your mind out of work and let it rest a bit from you doing TPS reports.
But still be working.
Still be working because games like Wordle are relatively short, right? You're not playing, it's not like you're playing an adventure game where you have to be at it for hours. You can do like 1 or 2. Ideally, you could do 1 or 2.
Depends on that day's Wordle, but sure, most of the time.
And it's. I mean, they do say there are some caveats. You want to make sure that what they found is workers who are overstressed are basically doing a bunch of things all day, all the time. Sometimes if you take them out of that and give them a cognitive activity like Wordle, they tend to feel worse at the end of the day when they get back to doing their job.
Oh, because they didn't have an actual break.
Well, yeah, because they're constantly thinking what they really needed was maybe just 30 minutes with
zone
with
out
an ice
for a
cream.
bit.
Yeah, zone out ice cream sundae. I want an ice cream sundae. But overall, I mean, I personally.
So wait, is it good or bad? Now I'm confused.
No. It is good, but the caveat is for selected individuals who are overstretched. In other words, they're doing a lot in a day. That kind of activity actually might make it worse. But in rare cases. So in other words, you want to be careful, basically based on the type of job you do. A Wordle break could do wonders because it's not just about the mental break. It can help facilitate teamwork because you're like, hey, Sarah and Tom, you guys were doing this for a little bit. You guys were comparing Wordle.
Tom does connections. I do Wordle, connections, and strands. Okay.
But you do a comparison at some point where you're like, hey,
people do comparison.
Oh, of course. Correct. Oh, I mean, literally every single morning of my life, Heather Frank, who's my co-host on Have Such a Good Day, and we both get up and start playing Wordle around 7. And so we'll share like, oh, I got 3 out of 6. But we don't share screenshots until we know the other person has also played, as not to, ruin the game for the other person every day. It is one of the highlights of my life. Now, could I do that at noon? No, because that's just not how our thing works. But I really do feel like it sets a tone for me to be like, you know what? All right, the brain is firing. We're okay.
But it also helps because it gives you a breather because you're not constantly thinking about work. It's like a diversion.
Yeah, well,
which
yeah.
is great.
I mean, it's the same thing as like, I don't know, pouring yourself a coffee and doing a crossword. Same idea.
Yeah. And what's great about it is that there's this interactive sort of camaraderie with it that is outside of work, but it helps facilitate that social interaction that in many cases actually helps with productivity, especially if it's on a group project, because everyone takes kind of a group rest and they engage in something outside of it and then gets back into it. So it helps in a way that I think if you were just sitting around like, hey, you want to get a coffee? You get
Well,
a
that's what I was
coffee
going to say. Like a knee-jerk reaction is like, why do I need Wordle for that? Like we can just take breaks and talk about stuff. I do that at work all the time. Like, why is this better?
It's the cognitive functionality of thinking through that game. It's literally thinking of something other than work. So
It's like you're
but if I'm taking a break,
completing a puzzle.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about something other than work. I'm thinking about the Snickers bar I just bought out of the vending machine or something. It's the level of cognition. Like you actually need.
You're
more...
actively engaged in it, right?
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
think
yeah.
of when you think of your Snickers bar, you're thinking of it in passing. It's like, yeah, I wonder how much that costs.
Yeah, it's not a heavy cognitive load.
Like
for most
I play word.
Maybe for me.
I play word trails. And I finished my most recent puzzle. It's on Netflix, and this is the reason why I have Netflix. But it's for this stupid game because I play it all the time.
That's the only reason you have Netflix is for word trails.
It seems like it because I use this more for Netflix than actually watching.
I feel like Netflix
shows.
would want this data from you.
I will say if
They're
they
like,
needed
it's him.
If you were outside of our current discussion, if you're looking for a reason why Netflix got into mobile gaming, it's for games like this because I am constantly on it. And
what is
I cannot
Roger's
be unstuck.
money?
But what's great about it is it's short. I can do like 2 or 3 words and then get back to it, but it allows me to take a break mentally. Or in reverse, it allows.
But you're not taking a break mentally because you're thinking. It's that you're changing what you're
It's a different,
thinking.
it's a different kind of cognitive thing.
I'm taking a break of thinking about the stuff for work. And
Yeah,
I'm thinking about trying to figure out a 4-letter word that encompasses T, T, E, and an A.
If you're not overstretched, that's why you had the caveat
Yes.
about being overstretched.
Yeah.
If you're not stressed, then changing the cognitive load is better than just dropping the cognitive load.
Exactly.
Yeah,
In other words, it's like, okay, what they said is they found that people felt, or at least self-reported, they felt better. They felt like they were more ready to do.
They
go
may not
back
have
to the
been better, but they felt better.
Yeah, I mean, these are all self-reported, unless you do like you have a clinical study where
self-reporting gets a bad name because it has biases, but it's not useless. And so, especially people saying, "Do I feel better or not?" That's that is pretty subjective. So, self-reporting is pretty decent for that.
And I do remember there was a time back when we all used to work together on the screensavers when I actually was on the screensavers call for help. But there was a game everyone was playing, and everyone was every once in a while they would say, No, it was like a Bejeweled game. You had to get like this game with like rows of jewels, and you had to like.
It wasn't Bejeweled. It was some other name.
But
yeah,
I remember
we all were playing that.
Yeah, everyone's playing. Every once in a while, it's like, hey, I got it in whatever. Like every like 30 or 45 minutes. I thought it was the most hilarious thing.
Playing
Candy
it on
Crush?
the clock.
Yeah. It was something like that,
A lot of people at our desks just being like.
But it was pre Candy Crush. It was pre a lot of those mobile games.
It was pre. Oh yeah, it was definitely.
That's Bejeweled.
That's Bejeweled, but like I still love Bejeweled.
But what I found in, at least anecdotally, what this represents to me is I saw how a lot of the teamwork and the kind of camaraderie within that group space sort of was energized by that because you guys were like interacting in a way not just on the work but outside of it, which I think helped create a stronger bond when it came to like producing the show. But I mean, I'm totally down. Basically, this is my excuse for saying I like to play games during the day.
Well, so
Word
do
games.
I find that, and I think everybody's probably different. For me, it's like first thing in the morning before I have to like jump into like real work. It's like games feel like, and when I'm talking about games, I'm talking about like something like Wordle. It's something that I spend 5 minutes on. It's not like an immersive experience. It's literally just like, like these two letters go together, that kind of thing.
And
and it feels like it's no one cares if I get it wrong, but I feel great if I get it right. So it's like that sort of fun, like, oh, this is a fun game for me before real work starts.
But you hit on it because there's a sense of accomplishment that you've completed something at the start of your. I actually do the same thing. I finished like two or three puzzles because it feels like I have completed something. Okay, the day is working. I'm getting things done. Granted, it's a word puzzle, but I got something done.
You've achieved
psychologically.
nothing.
Yeah.
But it feels
my
like
brain is working.
When they do the life coaching, a lot of the life coaches are always saying, first thing you want to do in the morning is make your bed because it's a small thing, doesn't take a lot of time, but there's a sense of accomplishment.
Eileen hates it when I do that because she's usually still sleeping in it. So
well, okay, after your spouse is out of the bed.
Hospital corners with a spouse while they're sleeping.
Still here.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many small things. I mean, all kidding aside, so many small things that, for example, I vacuumed the house the other day. Now, that's not weird. People vacuum their houses.
It's a good thing.
But it had been a couple weeks. It
makes you feel better,
it just
right?
had been, for a variety of reasons. And when it was done, I was like, my life, I'm so happy. Like I went from like, I don't like being here to being like, I love it here.
It makes a big difference
small thing.
when you do little things like that. I feel the same way when I clean the bathroom, right? Like, it's not like the bathroom doesn't get cleaned, but there's something about that fresh. It's now clean.
It's done.
Yeah.
You've completed something. There's
fresh
bed
Tiffany
sheets. hit it
also
on,
in that
hit it on the
category.
head. A win is a win.
Win is a win.
A win is a win. Yeah. I'll tell you what. We are always winning when we check out our mailbag because we get so many good things from y'all. Tom, take us in.
Eva wanted to help answer a question we had on the show a week ago. We discussed the memo about a 60-hour work week at Google, which, by the way, the text of the memo came out, and it was much less like demanding than some people had interpreted it as. He was saying like, I do this, but it was more rah. Anyway, Eva says, you guys mentioned that 40 hours was just a random number. That's actually not the case. An 8-hour workday enables a person to spend a third of their day at work, a third at home, and a third sleeping. This isn't actually a new idea. It was around at the turn of the century. We did get that enshrined by unions, as was the idea of a 2-day weekend and paid vacation time. The idea that people should just go ahead and work 50% more than their contracts require is ridiculous. Over here, Ireland, most people have contracts that specify how many hours they are required to work. Expecting people to work more than those hours as a regular thing is something that's called waged theft. And it would be. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Thankfully, it turned out what Sergey was saying to exempt employees, not hourly employees, is, hey, we need a big push. Sometimes you need a big push. So I think, 60 hours makes us productive at a big push. I don't think he was suggesting that everyone should work 60-hour weeks forever. And certainly at places like Google in the past, you're kind of free to, go do daycare pickup or do other things outside of work without having to clock in and clock out. That's the promised benefit of being an exempt employee. And then the other side of it is, every once in a while you need a surge. What happens at some companies is the surge becomes permanent. It did not seem like that's what Sergey was suggesting in the memo, though.
We also got an email from Alistair in New Brunswick who wanted to add to our discussion about disk rot, the idea that a physical disk might not actually be long for this world, depending on how long you've had it and where it might be stored. Alistair says, your disk rot story reminded me of when I hauled out my HD DVD player last year just to watch a few discs I had purchased when I was purple during Format War. I can easily say that all Warner Brothers discs were unplayable. Not a surprise, given they were all produced in 2006 and 2007. Just a word of warning to anyone who enjoys collecting obscure dead media out there.
So the HD DVDs were affected as well, not just the DVDs.
Patrick, I feel like you would probably have some thoughts about this.
I mean, one, props to Warner Brothers agreeing to replace
Yeah.
discs impacted by disc rot. But yeah, it gets interesting because I have family and friends that have degrees in like archival management. And it is fascinating when you look at, because, whether you're talking about, you know, 16th century clothing or 19th century machinery, there are best practices and guidelines on how to store it so it is still around for people to enjoy in a museum or to study as a student of whether they're an engineer or a seamstress or whatever it is. And it's mind-blowing because we sort of assume that LPs are relatively forever. Now you wear them out as you play them and they're easy to damage, but generally speaking, if it doesn't melt, it's still going to be usable in 50 years. And so to look at something that seems like so much more technologically advanced, which it is in terms of complication and sophistication, and you're like, a DVD must last forever. But this is not the first time we've run into, if you have a lot of personal information stored on recordable CDs, you probably should check it on a regular basis, or better yet, migrate it to a second kind of offsite backup source. Yeah, I mean, I could go on like this forever, but it's really disturbing when you think like, wait a minute, I don't have to just worry about like the actual magnetic particles falling off of this recording of this treasured performance by this artist who changed my life and helped me stay sane at a critical part of my life, but also things I think of as being relatively permanent because they got stamped out of a machine by a big company may actually be losing bits as we speak. I'll stop there because I can go on about this for a long time.
I mean, we're going to end up in the same place we
permanent.
ended up when we talked about this the first time, which is nothing lasts forever. So
Deal with your
Copies of it
mortality.
help.
I feel like that would be like a cool offshoot podcast. Like, nothing lasts forever. Let's talk about
The
how
ephemeral
right,
transitory
yes,
of human
yeah.
existence.
Yeah.
each episode a new pointless.
Yeah, or if you're people like me who are like, must hold on to all things always.
The idea is that you will embrace the now, for tomorrow may not be there.
Yeah, embrace the now.
There is no tomorrow. There is only ever now.
Oh, it's a pit. Oh, I thought that was a
You got that
pickle.
on eBay.
Yes, I did a long time ago.
I was thinking about that exact corn trophy when we were talking about eBay earlier because I remember you looking it up.
The winged corns are better, but yeah.
Is it an actual corn or is
This
it?
is a DeKalb Keyman in
It's
1956.
a golden
DeKalb
corn, Roger,
sales.
obviously.
Somebody sold a lot of seed back in the
I
day.
don't think it's a gold encrusted actual ear of corn. I
Okay,
think
so
it
it's
is
not an
a-
actual that they dipped in gold,
It
I
is a
don't
casting
know.
project.
like gold
Yeah,
figure.
it is
It's
a
gold
cast.
plated. It's gold plated.
Now it looks pretty
Gold-plated
brass to
corn.
me, Sarah.
Folks, don't forget you could send in your comments if you're like, wait, I want to see the corn, for example. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. And we'll take a screenshot of Patrick and send you a screenshot of the
corn.
corn. Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com.
We all sometimes razz Tom about having everything at the ready in his bookcase behind
I
him.
don't-
But Patrick Norton probably
Yep.
takes the cake for this sort of thing. I have been to a variety of.
Axe.
A hatchet. It's a hatchet, right? Because it's
a hatchet.
Tomahawk.
It's a hatchet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the man. I mean, he's got it all. He's got it all.
What
But
don't you
when
have?
you're not, I don't know, hatching up library books, Patrick. What do you do, and where can people find out where you're doing it online?
Oh, hey, that's
you should
from,
encourage me to spend more time on Blue Sky and in social media in general, because I just kind of got out of the habit during the recent pandemical situation, and I feel like it's time for me to re-engage with the public, or not. It's hard to tell. We
find
were all
out
so
when they get
excited
in
about
touch with
The
you.
nice thing is that
earlier.
you have the option to do it or not.
It's
Yeah.
your choice,
Yeah.
people.
Why not both?
Corn Talk
Why not
with Patrick Norton.
Yeah, ask him on Blue Sky to send you a picture of his corn trophy.
I will do that.
It's a pretty cool trophy. Not gonna lie.
It's not corny at all.
During this show,
Roger.
people have been submitting titles. If you watch the show live, and I don't know why you wouldn't. I have a meeting, I have work, I have to pick up the kids, whatever. What's more
Hard to
important
drive a
than
school
watching
bus full
our
of
show
children and
live? I
watching your
ask you?
show, Thomas.
Yeah. dailytechnewsshow.com/live. And the people who watch it live can name the show. Right now, over at showbot.tv, dtns.showbot.tv, the top vote getter from Fred819 is Make Mine a Wine Down.
Got it.
Clinton Woodward noted the part of the chatbot story in the Quit Kits and wrote, "Premium AI for failure with more confidence." We got Facebook Marketplace is for Roger and his 85 chairs. Is it 85? Was it?
I've reduced
80,
I reduced
right?
it down to 60.
It's 60 now. Okay.
No, it's
Now,
60.
yeah, make it
Does
progress.
anyone want 60 chairs?
They're great.
Roger
They're
is
clean.
a person to talk to on Facebook.
I'll give it to you
Marketplace.
$10 a chair. They're great. They're antiques. The guy who fixed them said they were antiques.
I mean, I don't
So,
need 60,
get it.
but maybe I need like. I
You
don't
never know.
like
If you ever
10?
want to recreate
Do you need 10? You
Eyes
don't
Wide
need-
Shut.
No, I don't. I don't need even one chair. But like, I'm like maybe like 10 chairs would be like a cool thing to
like
just
a
have.
just stack them up.
Yeah. Something like
And then
that.
it's a conversation piece. Sarah, why do you have 10 chairs?
Why do you have so many chairs?
And
Do
then
they
you can
stack,
get
Roger?
mannequins to
Are
sit
they
in them, and then
stackable
people
chairs?
will like
Conversation
wow,
I would have with no one because I never have dinner parties.
Roger, that's your key to getting rid of the chairs. You need to pair them with mannequins.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Win a mannequin, get a chair.
That's not
Or
weird.
buy a mannequin, get a
Yeah, free mannequin with every chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All he needs
no.
is a big supply of mannequins.
Very,
right.
very cool.
Somewhere
And
Yeah,
those
like,
things are very
affordable,
expensive. I tried to buy one.
Feedback at dailytechnewsshow.com. If you have 60 mannequins, Roger can team up with you.
Well, we
How about just one more talk before bed? Is BioCow. We also have gaming on your break from GPEG84. Craigslist is the old net. Facebook's Lively Marketplace. Also, both of those from GPEG84. Sarah, what did we go with?
We went with BioCow's Just One More Talk Before Bed. TOK.
Talk.
Get it? Get it? Just one. Just one.
Just one more talk before bed.
One more coffee before I go. Yeah.
I need one more coffee before bed.
That's a Bob Dylan song. Okay.
It's a
know,
Bob
but-
Dylan song. You
No,
wouldn't
I
understand.
get it, but like if you think about it, I
Did
don't
you?
really-
Did you? Did you get it?
Yes.
You had to
How many
think about
times do I have
whether
to
you
say
got it.
yes?
I say yes to everybody who supports us on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitch. We had new LinkedIn viewer today. It wasn't just John, so I think we doubled our audience. I'm trying to scroll back here until I find one of the chats. Russell, thank you for watching on LinkedIn. Big thanks to everybody who watches us on YouTube and the folks who subscribe to us on Twitch. No YouTube call outs today, but PC Milesy did share us with 20 bits over there on Twitch. Zoe Brings Bacon shared us as well. Norm Fazekas back with Prime for the 58th month. Says, what happened to my streak? Boo. 58 months. Still good. Nainu resubscribed for the 36th month at Tier 1. They've been subscribed for 33 months in a row. Thank you, Nainu. And thank you, everyone, for supporting us there and at patreon.com/DTNS.
If you would like to listen to season 2 of Behind the Data with Andrea Jones-Roy, you should. You
Why?
really, really should. This is a good show. In this season's premiere episode, Andrea explores the link between misinformation and social media. And we talked about this a lot on the show today. And what the data says about who's spreading misinformation on which platforms, and most importantly, what you can do to mitigate its effects. You can watch the episodes at BehindTheDataShow.com. You can also watch our show live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern and 2000 UTC. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We love doing the show. We love having you. Hope to see you live tomorrow with Scott Johnson talking about Microsoft's plans for developing game experiences for Copilot. Talk to you then.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.